There's that tiny little shadow there. It's so small. Yeah, it's there right behind him. You can see it a little better here. But he can cast a shadow if we set up the lights properly. You American cook, what you doing? What? It's a tiny buddy. Yeah, it's a very small buddy. You can see the lighting looks looking halfway decent there. With a better light, this actually would look pretty decent. Let's see, the skylight. So if we had a slightly longer track and all that sort of stuff, we could definitely have some lighting there. Morning, Caracan. That was you were not asleep for long. If we take our player, doesn't look like changing the angle does too much for us. I'm just seeing what it would look like if we changed the camera angle an insane amount. So let's see. Yeah, it looks like maybe having an angle of a little bit there works pretty well. Not too much of an angle, but you know, an angle. Five hours is plenty. Yeah. Alright, I think I'm definitely going to add that into the camera real quick. I'm going to make it so you can change the angle of the camera. So let's go do that. No, that's not the operation I wanted. Alright, camera control. And we're going to want the float. Let's do downward angle. Downward angle is going to start at a negative 5.0 f. And let's go to our player proxy actor. And we should be able to set in the tick the camera angle. Let's look up F transform real quick. Well, thank you for following Frosty 1176. We're working right now on. Oh, we got our WebKit windows hooked up. Got them resizing, all that fun stuff, and now we are trying to set our camera angle properly, and I'm Yeah, okay, so it's F rotator. Alright, so we want to do set actor. Alright, so we want to get the actor transform. Alright, so that should rotate our stuff. So let's see how it works. Yeah, we had a real hard time getting what are you angry about? We had a real hard time getting our UI stuff set up properly. Basically getting the clicks and everything hooked up. We had to do quite a bit of work to figure out exactly what we needed to do. Because it was basically figuring out, okay, why things were getting... keys were getting eaten by our web window, and then like, well, how do we actually do anything here? And then, well, we figured it out after a while, but not the easiest thing on the planet. We ended up having to basically, yeah, it's working now. But what we had to do is proxy all the events to that window after handling themselves in our main window, and in order to do that was just pretty ridiculous. Had to go edit how like the core events are actually trickled down, because it's like Slate was built on top of this system. It was basically built on top of this system, so it had like all the information that I needed up here, and then it was like taking all the information out of it and passing it into my stuff. But it was like not all the information was being passed down. It was being passed down in all these crazy formats, and it's just not fun. We also found that the WebKit window was doing crazy shenanigans, like feeding input events back into the input system after like deciding whether or not to use them or not, which is delaying input by an undefined number of frames. So like the WebKit stuff's off on another thread. So the issue would be like it would grab like your left axis on your joystick, and you wouldn't know if you're gonna get it or not. All right, so here is what this isn't doing what we want at all, is it? Thank you, Frosty1176. If you have any questions about just random programming stuff or the game or whatever, feel free to ask them while I'm working. I'm just working on stuff. I'm not trying to do like a tutorial stream or anything else like that. Just more documenting documenting the work, and if anybody wants to watch it, and hanging out. Like some people have like jumped on and asked if stuff in Unreal 4.16 works, and or if it's just them, and I'll like boot open some blueprints and do all that. But if there's something you're interested in, I may take time to explain things if I feel like. If I don't, I will ignore you. So don't take it personally. And I'm usually terribly vexed and angry at everything. And everything is usually everyone else's fault. I do not understand why this is not being set. So, like, this is the camera. It's got the input mapping and the scene component. It's a player proxy actor. Salty Cat, explain everything. What do I know? I don't know. It's all insane. Well, here's why it's all sorts of screwed up. Because of that. Yeah, and today's been more of a just plumbing stuff day. We haven't really made anything super fancy or super amazing. We've just been making sure the stuff that we are working with does what it's supposed to. Which can be kind of boring, because it's just fixing a bunch of stupid little bugs. We're not doing anything fun, like making things explode. Or tinkering around with lighting or shading or something, where at least you get something that looks pretty. Here we're just making sure that button presses work. Crap like that. Alright, so now we can change all of the camera angle stuff in here. So I can do stuff like that. I think that looks fine. That should be cool. Though, I mean, if you do see here, as we're kind of coming down on this log, you can definitely see that there is a back sprite and that it's not correct. But yeah, so we got these things, and today we're messing with stuff that, like, when we resize our window, things are actually resizing properly. And all that, so we got our black bars properly set on everything. And we can also, as you can see, where that little red box, should you get Windows 10 or 7? I would most definitely get Windows 10. It's a lot better than 7, in my opinion. But yeah, I can navigate this UI with the arrow keys. So you can see there's the little red box, and I'm moving that with my arrow keys. When I hit enter, it clicks it and all that. Like, here you go, there's a yes or no dialogue. And all that. So, we can also go to Google and we can search for things like variety of Brackenwood. See, we can visit our own webpage in the game. Arrow's working again? Yeah, things are working. I should fix it so there's no context menu. Because I can bring up the damn print dialog box. Like, the game brought up the fucking print dialog box, right? Like, there's no reason for this. So let's make sure we can't pop up that right-click menu. That should definitely be something that we can change. Oh yeah, we also need to add function headers. Let's add some function headers then, before we forget. Yeah, and if you're looking for specifics about Windows 10 versus 7, there's a lot of them. I mean, Microsoft's going to be spying on you, of course, regardless, but it spies on you a lot more with Windows 10. But it doesn't matter. Microsoft knows everything anyway, so. So I'm not worried. The guy comes to my house and samples my blood and then leaves. That's just what happens. But there's some cool stuff, like with Windows 10, like the resource monitors are super good. I've noticed that everything is faster. The memory manager is a lot better. It works a lot better than 7. And 7's got crazy, stupid crap going on with, like you have to restart the computer a lot more with Windows 7. Windows 10 can actually like reload environment variables and all that sort of stuff on the fly, and does a lot of that. Also, Windows 7's kind of getting phased out of corporations. So like even like Amazon as a corporation is switching to Windows 10, and so people kind of skipped Windows 8 for upgrades, and I think you'll see Windows 10 is the next like big thing. Kind of like there was XP, and then there was 7, and then there's 10. 10 is the next thing. So Win 8 is crap. I thought Win 8 was fine. I used it while it was out. But I'm kind of a special case, as I never used the start menu anyway, and I absolutely always used the hotkeys for accessing everything. And for me, Windows 8 was just an upgrade in terms of, you know, just an updated operating system with all that. So it's really how you use it. Like a lot of people, I think Windows 8 really was a step backwards. And then when they like went backwards and like removed the frickin' Metro interface, or like they tried to quote unquote fix the start menu, they kind of just broke it even more. It was just like, okay guys, like this, yeah. But that is a thing. Like, if people are like having holy wars about like Windows 8 sucks and Windows 7's better and blah 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 blah, you know, like you failed. You failed on a lot of levels to ship a product. Because there's a lot of things there, like Windows apps and everything else that they're trying to push through that really just went nowhere. Like, I have never once used the Microsoft Store and like installed an app on my computer and all that crap. Just all the app things are just infuriating. Like they just don't work. There's no reason for them on a desktop. But I don't feel like Windows 10 pushed any of that stuff on me. Windows 10 was just like, okay, we got the message. It's like Windows 7, but, you know, updated. Fuck you guys. Alright, so we're trying to disable that right-click menu. I hate that store so stupid. Yeah, games for, like, even, like, games for Windows Live back 10 years ago sucked. Like, just awful implementations of things. Alright, so we need to go to swebbrowser.h, and we need to look for like the show controls, show address bar, show error messages, supports thumb mouse button navs, show initial throbber. Like, show controls is freaking false. So why are you showing the controls? Pop-up menu method. Have I created shaders with C++? Well, I don't think you create shaders with C++. Usually, if you're going to program shaders, you're going to be using HLSL or fragment shaders in OpenGL or something else. If you're talking about like materials and the rest, like if you're talking about making shaders in C++, you're talking about like DirectX 7, as far as I know, where you're manually like setting lights in DirectX graphics, which is just awful. They're like fixed function pipeline stuff. So I don't think I understand your question fully. Let's see, where is this going to be? I need to look inside of the web browser stuff. It's true. Get CF, web browser window. Get title, get source, populate event, JS dialog. I'm trying to look if there's anything in here for the set URL, set tooltip, view rect, notify document error, on paint, video buffering, no, cursor change. You're not sure what's used to program shaders? Well, which kind of shaders are you interested in? Are you interested in the stuff like for Unreal 4? Because you use their material editor stuff, and I can pop that open here in just a second. So I think what I'm gonna do here is, since I'm not finding anything that's like show pop-up menu. Okay, we have to. Let's take a look at this. If this show pop-up menu is the actual thing, and then I can see if there's an option to change it. You're just asking in general? Well, in general, the thing I'm most familiar with direct shader programming stuff is let's see, disable right click menu jQuery. So we can actually change this to our body on context menu equal false. Alright, so maybe that's all we need to do. Okay, so we just needed to change our page for that. That's super easy. But yeah, like old school stuff. Let me go pull something up real quick. Let's see, it's dev, archive, like hopeless, catastrophic. So like what we did in college was we wrote all our shaders in HLSL. So and HLSL, basically you had a vertex shader and you had a fragment pixel shader, which might be like a fragment shader and other things, and you basically like specify your pixel and vertex shader like versions, and you compile this into an actual effect. And kind of this is not super great stuff, but basically like you would define all these external things that you could actually pass into your shader, and you push and pop them onto the actual, like, you call DirectX functions and whatever to push variables onto the stack which your shader can access. And then inside of your vertex and pixel shader, you can program stuff like this is calculating the age of some afterburner particles on kind of the idea is to this is on like a spaceship where you've got these particles that go off of it. So there's like you calculate like the time t of something, and you can like change the actual fade of something like that, and you basically got this output VS struct that you've defined. So it's like out of your vertex shader, which is dealing with your points in space. You'd have like a position, a color, a texture coordinate, and like a size. And then inside of your pixel shader, you would you've got your texture sample, and then you could like actually return a pixel shader is going to return a color that gets drawn to the screen. So we got like our color multiplied by our alpha that we passed in, and all this other stuff. And this is like super old school. You'd then compile these shaders and use them in your game. And that's not how it's done in modern stuff. In modern stuff, going through and programming all this stuff by hand is just not something that's done in games anymore. At least commonly, it is very much not the case. What you do in modern engines most of the time is you try to expose everything to artists, because artists are good at making things look pretty. And so basically, like, let's see, where is our... It's like, here's our material that's drawing our sprite right now. So instead of, like if you saw what we were working with earlier there, the vertex and the pixel shader, this is doing the same thing, but it's in a flow node based system. So when it's computing like the color of the thing of the actual thing, it's following the rules here, and it uses this to create and compile an effect in a shader for you. So this is like, okay, fetch the texture coordinates from our place in space. You can have textures that you can set dynamically, and you can add more texture samples and all sorts of stuff. And it's basically like, okay, we'll grab the vertex color and multiply that by the sprite texture color, and that's going to be our base color. So that's basically like if the top left hand corner of a triangle was white, which is what the geometry has, and we multiply that by the texture sample color, like if it's like Bitey's face and it's brown, it's just it's going to be 1 multiplied by the color brown, and that gets shoved into our as these outputs here, and this will do all that crazy stuff of like figuring out what the structure looks like and everything else for you, and give you a nice real-time rendering. So modern stuff, you're working in this sort of thing, and materials get insanely complicated. These are like super simple, but some materials like this is a waterfall material. I think Adam was messing with this, but you can see kind of what you're doing here, which is there's all these flow nodes. Yeah, programming shaders from scratch happens for very specialized things. And there aren't many graphics engineers. Like if you had a AAA team, a AAA game, and you had 60 to 70 people total on the team, you might have one graphics engineer. And that person's job is really not most of the time to write shaders, but to optimize stuff that other people are working on. So like an artist would make something like this, and then the graphics engineer would go and make it run better. That sort of thing. And they usually don't do that by writing it by hand. It just takes too damn long. And The only time you'd be writing actual shaders in shader language would be for some sort of experiment or specialized hardware. So if you're doing something crazy in VR, maybe. If you were doing something for a specific device, maybe. But it's something that's kind of out of date now. Everybody's using these visual editors because people have gotten so much better results giving artists power to do it as opposed to engineers. So it's kind of I would say a dying breed of engineer is the graphics engineer. And at least they used to, like, it used to be that you'd write all these cool shaders and, you know, be playing around with crazy shader magic and doing all that, but hardware's kind of come so far that you're able to actually, you know, execute stuff on the GPU that you didn't used to be able to do. Anyway, yeah, like we're looking pretty good. So I think I'm gonna pop open Adam's level real quick, the better looking beautiful corner, and I'm gonna see how this looks with the downward facing camera that I've got at the moment. Does this have my camera? Yeah, it's there. So this is with my downward camera. Holy shit, what the hell is that? Oh my god, it's a lit fat sack. That is pretty cool looking. How high res is that? A fat sack monolith, yeah. It was hidden away. So yeah, so this is just a normal mapped surface. Alright. Trying to see, it looks like it might have some ambient occlusion slapped in there. Since it looks a little, you know, like stuff's stretching and doing weird stuff. He was looking for a fat sack he couldn't see. Alright, well, don't tell him where it is. It's to the left. The game is actually, like, if you look at a lot of this, it's kind of 2D. Like, they're 2D objects in 3D space, and some of the backgrounds are using like full 3D objects and all that. So while it is 2D, it's in 3D space, and we will have 3D lighting is what we've been working on recently, just now. Getting our characters lit up properly and all that stuff. So we are in process of discovering exactly what it means to make this stuff, you know, nicely lit. And we'll be doing a few 3D things. We're going to be experimenting very much. So we'll see. Anyway, what else have I got on my list today? Well, I think I've probably worked enough. So I think I probably worked for like, I don't know, it's like 8 p.m. I've been up for quite a while. So I think I'm pretty much done here. Unless anybody's got anything else they want me to poke around in real quick. I'm looking to sign off here. Gosh, went hiking yesterday and the mosquitoes were out in force, so I have mosquito bites. They're itchy. Anyway, so I think I'm done here. So thank you for sticking around, and go join Adam's stream if you want to watch more development. Everyone should. All the billions of people should head over to Adam's stream because he's super cool. So I will see you guys next time.